Welcome to the episode of the Bhandwagon podcast. And today, I have a member of one of the most popular, I would say, one of the longest serving DJ collectives in the UK Bhangra scene, but obviously world renowned and full of stories, which hopefully I could get a few out today. Joining me today is DJ Harv. How you doing, bro?
I'm good, bro. How you doing, Ricky? Okay?
Yes. So it's only been about a year in it since we've been trying to get this on, innit?
Yeah, we keep like bumping random places in Birmingham and then discussing it.
Then it
I
starts to
blame
get
Jazz.
uncomfortable. It starts getting uncomfortable. We're like, yeah, can't do get we are, yeah. And then
Exactly.
jazz is the worst.
For the record, he's meant to be joining us, but he's too tired.
Yeah. What time? It's only 6:30.
I know.
What a
He's
blag.
organising our Kudos Christmas party tomorrow.
That is
Big
ridiculous.
responsibility.
Oh, so so how does the kind of duties get allocated then? Is it just purely him putting it on for everyone else, or is it just
Yeah, I mean, like what usually happens every year. It's a bit earlier this year, but we'll do like an awards at the office for all the staff, and then tomorrow we've got the England game, so we're doing awards at the office. Then we'll go to a pub, watch the England game, and then we're going to go for a meal.
what?
So that's what it usually is every year, apart from the football.
So what's the categories?
Like best DJ, best international, best gigs,
Like
most
full proper kind of
clumsy.
categories.
Yeah, that. But then you get like the clumsy ones or Mr. Forgetful. You get the silly ones as well. So everyone gets an award in the end.
Have you got any awards that you're reigning champion on?
You know what? Since for 3 years, I haven't won Single of the Year, which is disappointing. So
What,
we're going with
single
that
of the
one.
year?
There's only three of us.
And you've lost.
I lost it the last 2 years already.
That's harsh, man. That is harsh.
Badly.
That's all
Yeah.
about motivation, though. Still,
Yeah. No, but I think it's more just we don't, as big as team as we are, we don't all see each other all the time. So we like live for this moment because we're all originally really good, close friends, but
mm.
work takes over and you just miss each other for a good 7, 8 months. So it's like the best catch up of the year.
I think that was one of the things that I kind of queried, especially when you got like when you've got such a big outfit of
Mm.
strong individuals, and you've got reputable DJs and things like that themselves.
Mm.
How difficult I mean, for especially for like Jazz and H and probably the more
Mm.
experienced ones to kind of keep everyone in line and to kind of continue that motivation must be it must be very difficult.
I think um I think where it's difficult is if you haven't got your own brand within the brand. So be it AJD, Rajiv, Jazz, everyone's sort of got their own clientele and their own crowd that they play to, right? So for some of us guys is it's easier now. Now we're like a good 10 years, 12 years into Kudos that we've created our own brands within Kudos. But then the new guys, or I even remember going back 5, 6 years, you are eager for the big parties, but you have to wait your turn or it will come. You just got to keep slogging, and by slogging I mean you've got to keep hustling, you've got to keep networking, you've got to keep releasing mixes or whatever you're doing. But I get the feeling that people prefer to book the personality behind the DJ. As much as the music and everything's important, they do want a face or a personality that they can connect with. So
Yeah.
I think that's just across the board, it's really important.
I'll kind of pick this bit up a little bit later on because there's quite a lot of
Mm.
avenues we can go down. So when you were younger, was this a career? I mean, we're talking about a multi-million-pound industry at the moment now,
Yeah.
especially with bigger DJs and stuff are earning like ridiculous amounts of figures.
Mm.
Did you, when you first got into the scene, was that something that you kind of thought about, or did you accidentally fall into it?
I started at uni, right? So I went to uni in Southampton and
What?
like, yeah. So I went to university in Southampton back in the day and a long time ago. And there was no bungalow nights. And I was always a massive bungalow head. Like, I'm originally from a town called Hitchin. Loads of people know this, always go on about it. But
Kitchen.
yeah,
And they're Luton, yeah, Dunstable
yeah,
Downs and all that, yeah.
yeah. We don't really speak about Luton like that. But If Jazz was online now, he would have tied it in because that's what they hit you with. Oh, you're from Luton, yeah?
Oh, mate, you must be getting caned.
Oh man. But even then, hitting like there's a strong Punjabi community there,
Yeah, yeah.
but a lot more Gore as well. So I always grew up around Gore, but still managed to be a proper this year, mainly due to my dad, I suppose. And then I've gone to university and there's no Bhangra nights, and I've come to uni thinking I want to be doing Bhangra every night, I suppose,
Yeah.
as well as doing the standard stuff that you do. So we started making our own nights. I think we are called South Coast Sings. We did a few gigs like in Southampton, Portsmouth, brought some acts down, but then ultimately it felt like it was my opportunity to start playing music myself. I was so into it, I knew everything. I thought, I got my mum to buy me some decks back then, and that was it. I couldn't mix, didn't know what the hell was going on, but
That doesn't matter these days.
yes, but we made it happen, and like at that time, and what I feel like works more than, like you said, without the mixing, putting mixing to the side and skills and looks and everything, music knowledge is the number one key thing, because the arm banda have no idea what's going on. So if you keep the music flowing with banging tracks, you're already onto a winner, and that's how it started.
So, like, but what were you studying then? And then, yeah,
I studied business marketing. Again, going to uni, not really knowing what we're going to do, so just went for the traditional path. Like, it's just 20 years ago nearly. So left college, went to uni. Is You just do your course, don't you? You're just going through the sort of motions. You're there for. I think people are a lot more. They've got like a lot more information available to nowadays with the internet and what careers they want to do. Back then, I think a lot of us were lost. We're just doing business studies, and
yeah, there was that phase where everyone was either doing like C++, like business computer studies,
yeah,
and then you had law contingent, and then you had like the people doing all the GP like medical stuff, and
yeah,
you never used to see them.
yeah,
And then
exactly.
that was it really. And then because I used to do politics, yeah, in
Mm.
Nottingham, and it used to piss me off because it's like all the Bhangra nights were all around based on their schedules. I was opposite. So when they had a free night and it'd be a sick night, I had to be in writing essays.
Oh man.
Uh, I understand it from a marketing point of view now, but they don't cater for the outliners, man.
But so we had to create our own, man, and then I stopped. I changed careers. I had to come home. My dad passed away, so I had to come home and stuff like that. So I went through a few things back then, and then it was literally I must have not really. I had decks at home, but I didn't really go near DJing for maybe 4 or 5 years, and then it was time to get married. Um, and I met DJ H, and someone must have told him I was a DJ at uni or something. H knows the world, and he asked me. I was like, yeah. And he goes, well, why don't you come along with me to some gigs? He goes, I'll show you what weddings are like. So I spent a year on the road with H, and I loved it. I just fell in love with it. Like I always wanted H for my wedding anyway. I'd seen him for like 2 or 3 years beforehand. His Reloaded album was out. He was like a superstar back then, and I was like, yo, this guy is amazing. And then I moved to the area because of work, became friends, we're playing football together. Next thing you know, a year later, he's given me a massive chance and said, look, join the team as a DJ. And I joined up with a guy called Raju, who used to be my mic man. And again, the hardest thing to do one of the hardest things to do in the business is miking. But yeah, we became a team, and then it's just, I think the music's always been a passion, and the fact that I was able to pick up DJing and just slog it and just do weird weddings like Chinese marrying Tamils and like anything you do at that stage just to get a gig or
Is
just to
that
be
just
at it.
because of the graft thing that was happening at the time? Because I remember when the full Kudos like launch happened. I mean, there was like loads of rumors, like they bought out, like they've had this special contract with Brit that no other DJ allowed to
Oh, really?
advertise. Yeah, because it was what was it? It was them guys. I think Lines Bangla.
Yeah,
A few others. Basically, there was, I think, because Kudos were the first ones to actually advertise
yeah.
DJing on there, and
It was, yeah.
then I remember hearing that they go, "Oh yeah, no one else is allowed to advertise it for like 6 months or something," and then
Joe, I think I heard the same rumor, but I started a year after that. So I
It
almost
worked.
missed that. But I know that I remember those adverts coming up with Asia and thinking, this is sick. Look at the setups. They've got the branding, the DJs. And I was like, definitely having Kudos for my wedding. Like, that's just the way it was. And I think, yeah,
Yeah,
for a while, as in, I suppose a lot of scenarios for Kudos is that they were first to do something and it just kicked off and it set a trend, didn't it? So
yeah.
it definitely worked. But I think a lot of it's just down to H and Jazz just being just relentless with their passion for what they do. So
Yeah. How you kind of said it in a little way where you saw that H, he was already kind of like well kind of known release tracks of his own and as a collective, and just everyone just knew of him. Did you feel the pressure going in there where you've had like little kind of skills on your, you probably have kind of, I would say kind of basic skills at that point, and then you're going
yeah.
into the collective with a bigger bit. How difficult was it for you then to kind of leave your impression, your mark? Because you've got to earn that space, don't you?
It was really difficult, because obviously I've been on the road with H for a year, so I got to understand the setups and the effort and everything goes into. I got to understand a bit more how a wedding flows. So those sort of things were in my armory. But when I first come to Kudos, I was just so taken back by the level of skill these guys had at DJing. I just couldn't believe it. Like, I'm not talking using laptops or sync buttons. People like Rajiv could mix with their eyes closed, with their back towards the decks. Like, there was a pure, like, amazing technique. And I was watching, I was thinking, shit, I'm nowhere fucking near this level. And now H has brought me on board. So I was on the microscope because it was always back then, there was about 7, 8 Kudos DJs, and everyone was rated to be really, really highly regarded in the industry. And I think there was one gig that I did, and there's someone else came to mic it for me. One of our other guys that used to be with Kudos back in the day, Arjun, and that day just everything just went tits up. My mixes were out. I couldn't get a flow. I was nervous, and word got back, and then there was like I had to overcome being shit, basically, which I was, and rightly so. But what it meant is that I fucking tried even harder, and I've spent. And bear in mind, I'm in my mid-20s. I'm not like a 16-year-old kid in his bedroom. I was making time to just practice my technique. And I kept making these live mixes and uploading them to SoundCloud, and that's how I got a bit of a following, because I was just doing desi music. That's what I love. I wasn't trying to do reggae and hip hop and this and that. I was just stuck to my guns, desi, and I somehow built a following just like that. Just kept going for it, and
Name
my
me,
skills.
name me your third. Let me see. Name me your third release on your SoundCloud.
Oh, Panjabi slow jams.
Fucking smashed it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
serious.
Straight off, man. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I can't name you my top five, my first five podcasts. I forgot.
Every one of those mixes, I could listen back because it's done live. I can tell you the next song that was coming in if I'm listening to it. Like I
Because
just
you
because
rehearsed it, it was in that way.
and when you fucked it up, you had to start again and this and that. You had to be like perfect for 30 minutes or whatever it was. So.
Do you think that are of in terms of where people are like I can see I my experiences when seeing DJs or hearing the DJs, I think obviously a lot of the technology kind of helps people now.
Yeah, massive.
You can still there's a difference of being a selector kind of thing, isn't it? In like picking the right genre, the kind of side of it. Are you one of the? Where's your mindset in terms of your opinion of the new generation of DJs compared to the old one?
I think the older generation, or more say, I'd say I almost cut from that same cloth, is that we relied on network, and I think we're just better speakers, and like like we know how to host, we know how to talk to people, and I think that was so big back then because you didn't have much social media, so you had to know when they're face to face. I remember turning up to the gigs once, and some guy goes, "Oh, where's the main DJ at? Where's H and Jazz?" And we were setting up. It was so disrespectful. The guys, we were really good friends now, but back then I was like proper felt disrespected by the guy, but I turned it around and we ended up becoming really good friends. And I think that really helped back then, because if you've got a good balance of you can mix all right, you know your tracks, and you know Bandé, you're going to get gigs, right? and then obviously you get better as time goes on. With the new guys, they're phenomenally talented, like different level talented with DJs. I'll talk about some of the guys in our camp. You've got Aman with the X in his name, Harvey, Sam. These guys are like just different level. They know what every button does on the deck and how to make it work to their, however they DJ. The DJ completely different way. They're amazing at what they do, but I feel like unless we speak about them, no one will really know who they are. So I feel like it's just their generational thing, right? It's not
Is it
them
they're
per
more
se.
kind of like introvert? Because I think
Yeah,
we're like Kudos and a few other DJs and that
yeah,
happened, and a few kind of individual DJs kind of on their own road shows where they cooked up kind of a perfect storm where social media came at the same time.
yeah,
They had the networking skills so they could connect with loads of people. And now
yeah,
you see exactly what you said, a generation of individual talents, and they'll just fall away if they don't get picked up because
yeah,
they're going in a saturated social media market rather than kind of having their talent speak for themselves because the algorithm doesn't support that.
yeah. That's that. You've got to have a USP. Like I would say, mine's being desi. I'd say Jazz is his ability to mix and to mic so well, and a few others are like Rajiv again mixing. It's just everyone knows that you're going to go to a certain DJ for a certain thing, and I think I stuck to my guns with being desi. I struggle sometimes with the younger crowds, whereas I feel like they don't know what they want to do because they're probably in a lot more of an English music era as well, so they've got a passion for English music. But they want to do Punjabi parties, but then don't follow the Punjabi scene as much, so they don't know all the latest Punjabi songs. So it's a bit of a mishmash, man. But they're phenomenally talented. Like I can't even begin to. They won't pick up a mic even, but the talent on decks is just something else, man. So I don't know how the industry changes going forward, but my only advice to the new guys is just create your USP, whatever your passion is, and follow that because that'll always give you the crowds that you want. I remember as soon as I got a Bangla wedding gig, full desi, I spent days just perfecting what I was going to do that day and just making sure it's perfect just to get that
Was
crowd.
that gig in the Midlands?
Yeah, naturally, yeah.
Yeah.
Midlands is like
you
all my
constantly
family's
live in the
from
wrong
there,
area.
so
Yeah.
like sometimes a bit of my accent goes that way as well. But I've got such a big connection with the Midlands. Like literally 90% of my family's there. I grew up around there. So many like weeks on end, holidays and stuff. So yeah, it's just it's a love. There's no hate. There's all love there.
So you know so you've gone into the unit, you've built up your you're starting to get your section of kind of the market, your portfolio and stuff. Do you kind of I'm trying to say this in a kind of friendlier way. Are you aware of your competition that's out there at the same time? Because you might have internal competition in between
Mm.
yourselves, which is fine. That's any working environment is like that.
Yeah, yeah,
But you've got super competitive other road shows, especially around London, and
yeah,
they're not jokers. They're spending money on AV. They're spending money on just general equipment,
yeah,
production, and things like that. I know in Midlands, it's everyone kind of on face kind of get together, sit together, eat together. But
yeah,
there's another story behind when they're away from that.
yeah,
I think in London it's a bit more everyone's front up, like they keep it more strictly business rather than personal. Is that
yeah.
fair to say
Definitely.
from somebody looking outside in?
I think it's just a London thing in general. Like the hospitality in London's shit. Like no one's really wants to do any service for anyone. I'm not saying that should be the case, but I'm saying you
Yeah,
go to Birmingham, like people will get upset if you haven't called them. They're like, you were here, you didn't tell me you were here. I wanted to take you out. We could go on for a mixed grill, whatever. And I suppose, with us coming from London into Birmingham, we get a lot of love because we've got different crews and networks that we're not always with, but they're always there that we can have a chat to. We see them at gigs, we have a good time. In London, it is purely business, I'd say. And I'd tell you, there's probably no love in between. I found it really weird because when I joined Kudos, it was after the whole Caliber Kudos split. So I didn't know anyone from Caliber, but you felt like there was a lot of animosity at that time between different groups, and you could only, your friendships are almost only associated with your roadshow, and wasn't like really looked upon. It's frowned upon if you're outside of that sort of boundary, right? So I found that a little bit weird at the beginning. I understand it, but I found it a little weird. But I think London's just, even though I'm from here, I'm more of a Midlands character, I
Yeah.
suppose.
Was it
And
guilty by association after the Kudos caliber split? Because I don't know the fully, and that's what I'm hoping when Jazz was here to give that kind of
yeah, I
background
know, I
from
know.
from,
I think he
from the
would have
day
been.
start.
I think now it's so much more calmer. Like, as in, we all sort of communicate in different ways. There's people like DJ Mans, Good Lad, and whoever they have. If we see each other, I don't think there's any that much animosity, and I think even that goes higher up as well with owners and whatnot. I think I think people have sort of got past that now and just accepted that it was that time. People are much younger. I think everyone's a little bit older now, and everyone's still strong in their own work. Caliber's still busy doing their stuff. We're really busy doing our stuff. You got Ritzy around and other road shows that have made their name for many years, man. And I just think that everyone, it's cool. There's no fighting. There's no anger. There's just not crazy love either. This is what it
Yeah.
is.
Did you, from a family point of view, you just said like
Mm,
you've got a big family.
mm.
Did you have to make a vocal decision to people to say, yeah, I'm a DJ, this is what I'm going to do now? Or were you able to were you still keeping a regular job as well at the same time and balancing it all up?
Yeah, I think, well, for 10 years, I did 7 days a week. It was like I had my regular job Monday to Friday. And then Saturday and Sunday, I was on the road with H. Now, what happened is originally H was doing all my family parties. So when I was turning up with him, like, you get extended family, you wouldn't necessarily be invited to the wedding, but everyone there is one of those. So it was turning up and they were seeing me. So then I used to go to H and go, listen, you need to let me play for a little bit so they don't just think I'm just a speaker to Granada. Because I'm 25, isn't it? Like, this is a job for a
It's
16,
it's always
17 year
it's
old.
always you get uncomfortable with like the 40-year-old dolly.
Yeah,
Like it shouldn't exist.
yeah. It's just, I think you say the same. I said to myself a couple of years ago when COVID started, like, I needed to lose weight because I didn't want to be like a fat uncle DJ. You're dead as you're hanging over the mixer and you're just not in touch with what's going on. So I made like a conscious decision to try and look the best possible that you can in it. So
Without the Botox.
yeah, without the Botox, yeah.
That's coming, isn't it? Where you're gonna get people. Oh, it's gonna be mad when someone actually gets caught. Would it be
What, having Botox?
a DJ Botox guy? Like you
I'm
could
sure it's
visibly
happening.
see. You
I'm
must
sure it's
know
already
someone the
happening.
way that you're smiling.
Nah, because someone come into office, I don't say who because he's hard as fuck. I don't and keep the shit out of me. But he came into the office and his missus does Botox and he's proper trying to promote it to us. And he's looking at me, he's looking at H. It's like, you guys, trust me, you need to get it. Look at it, you can't even tell. And I was looking at it thinking, you can fucking tell, bro. I couldn't say nothing to him, so I was like, yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, you end up signing up. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll come. I'll come. I'll come. So so it's clearly kind of like the money and stuff has got through there. Has it? You said at the beginning that it was around about passion and getting into it.
Mm.
Did you later on? Did ever that start to wear down? Do you still feel the same, basically?
Yeah, man. Like, I'm so excited when I'm busy or with gigs. Like, I love it, man. Like, my wife probably wants to throw me out of the house by now because she thought I'd get over it by now. But 12 years on, um, 10 years, I'd say, of proper DJing. Um, I'm I'm really happy now because I no longer do bookings that are just left over in the Kudos diary. Like, oh, do you want to go and do this wedding at this manor house with the Chinese and Tamils? And I was like, I've got my crowd. I'll get the bookings I want to do, and I'm also playing the music that I want to play because people are booking me because I play that music, which is like the best scenario ever for ask any DJ. Like, people know now what to expect. If I am going to play, I am going to be a little bit more desi. Yeah, I know everything. I can do all types of music, but that's my crowd, and I'm more comfortable in that situation. And that's why I love it, man. If that ever stopped, and if the bookies start dropping down, that's when I'll you know, it's just like being a footballer, isn't it? You know when your time's up, you just gotta. I'm not gonna turn to drugs and alcohol to get over my situation. I'm gonna just make a conscious decision and say now there's a whole new wave of talent coming through.
But
You at the top.
isn't that part of the problem though? Because like you kind of said it, there is a new wave of talent, but the public don't know about them, or they don't want
Yeah,
to, or they might not book them. Do you ever? Because I think we're in uncharted territory. It's the first wave of where the bands got killed, and
yeah.
then those DJs who got successful where there's real money, and it's aggressive money where it's such a where it's life changing money,
Mm,
and you've got that wave of the mid 30s, get a little bit, I would say 30s to mid 40s, maybe, or early 40s.
yeah,
And and then there's a lot of them that how long are they going to kind of stay relevant? Because
it's
if they're
true.
just
Yeah.
taking the big gigs or anything like that,
Mm.
and the youngsters are not getting those big gigs, or they're not being the mic, or they're not being on social media present, what's your prediction of that?
I think we've got a situation where it's nowadays a lot more cooler to study. Being like a geek or a nerd is pretty fashionable. Like they're the clever kids are the cool kids now. When we were at school, it wasn't cool to be clever. It was cool to be a DJ or like going away on the weekends and jumping in vans and stuff maybe, but or whatever you wanted to do. But so I think that what's happened is the new talent, if they're not getting the big gigs, they're simply just going to follow their studies, right? And just going to carry on and do that job. So there is going to be that gap of, I think the reason why we're still going is because there isn't enough talent coming through. People are giving up probably too early or too easily. There's probably a handful of DJs I can think on top of my head, which I'll be like, this guy's will go places or they'll do well. They'll keep plugging away. I think one guy, Aaron Sander, I think he'll do really well. He's from Leamington. He plugs away. He's doing his own thing. He's independent, and you can tell that is his passion, right? I think we're holding on to the market so strongly. Um, there's a few of us that, and until we're ready to give up, the next batch won't come through that well. I don't think. I think that's my prediction.
And
I hope that
do
makes
you
sense.
think that's reflective of like the music industry as well?
What do you mean, like,
Like
as
it's
in?
almost like the same scenario, isn't it? It's like you got a few people just kind of continuing it on, and
Mm,
the newer talent coming through, they have the spikes, the flash, but their lifespan is actually getting shorter and shorter. It's really they'll come and then they'll go, and you won't see them again.
but that's down to us as consumers. We consume music so quickly that people can't keep up making hits all the time. Um, we would sit on an album for at least a year, listen to the same album or whatever. But
Hmm.
because it's so openly available to everyone, it's quick, 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 quick. The music's not as good. It doesn't last forever. Like how many evergreen tracks have come out? You'd say Hostel, Den Beg are probably the most recent evergreen hits, right? So you could pick out two, but there's about 10 tracks come out every week. But again, yeah, it's the same situation. There's so much talent in these youngsters, though, with the production skills and the technology they've got available. I was listening to your Butta Jagpal
Hmm.
um, podcast in the car last week, and the way he was discussing how the lengths they had to go to record a track, but he still managed to make these amazing. But I think the length of time it takes to make a track is how long your song's going to last for as well. That can be the only
Yeah,
comparison.
I kind of went away from that, and I just thought, it was one of my favorite podcasts that I did with him,
Mm, I really
and I
enjoyed
was
it.
sorry that I'd done full stop, and I was like the amount of history that he had in his head and what he did, the amount of men that they did, and it was actually an occasion when they released a song. Then when
Mm,
you see some of the people now, it's like people release songs this week and I haven't realized, and I was like,
yeah,
and I've missed it,
yeah,
and you think, oh, forget it, I'll just get the next one or whatever it is, and you just
yeah,
think that the length of songs is like attention spans are so small nowadays that
yeah.
if you're an artist in whatever industry that you're doing, you won't get appreciated for long. I mean, even on a minute scale, where when I put a podcast every week,
Yeah.
I literally announce it. I put one clip out on one day, a clip on the next one, and then automatically I'm thinking I've got to edit the next one.
Yeah, get on to
Because
the next one. Yeah,
I'll get a message say, "Oh, who's on next?" And I'm like, I'm
yeah,
not telling you. That's the whole bloody point of it. You know what I mean? And it's yeah, and but I'm also feeding into this kind of market. What's been there that is just content is king, isn't it? Even if it's shit.
yeah. Even if it's shit, if it's there, you're in someone's face every week. Um, it's gonna work in your favor
But
eventually.
how do you stay on top of it then, like with like new music?
Um, for me, I'm like I said, I'm so into it that I'm every day. I've got my Spotify playlist, which I update regularly anyway, and then just always I'm just in touch with all the different media sources on Instagram, and I built so many like nice relationships with like singers back in the day before they were famous and stuff, and you just see bits coming up. Someone's always promoting music, and for me, it's just my ear. I need to hear it. I need to understand it, and really more importantly for me is my sets. I want to bring in new music all the time. Like I'm not worried about paying doing standard stuff that everyone plays. Like I want to keep trying to bring new music through
Mm.
because again that's part of my sort of USP.
Do you ever get do you still get the bit where someone from the audience might come up in the wedding and say, "Can you play something?" You ain't got a clue what they're saying.
I never have a clue what they're saying because I can't hear anything. Um, so it's like get a phone, write it down.
Yeah.
There's one woman come up to me on Saturday and she goes, "Oh, can you play my husband's request?" And I was like, "Who's your husband?" Isn't it? She goes, "Oh, don't you remember?" I was like, "It's the last. Your husband's the last thing on my mind at the moment." Um, so, but I think it's important to play people's requests as well. So I've always been the kind of guy to take on the request. They just got to wait for the right time. And people, I think patience is a problem with the Punjabis.
It's,
They want it there and then.
it's demanding it right now. I remember once as a kid, man, I had Budgeon on the podcast,
Mm,
and he used to have a telephone. He used to put the telephone to find out what the
yeah,
next song was. And then I asked him, my cousin asked me to go to him on set and say, "Can you play?" I was only a kid.
yeah.
I asked him, I think he told me to fuck off or something like this. I was only a kid.
No way.
He's
I'm pretty
wrong.
sure
He's
Jazz
like,
has used those words on a couple of occasions as well.
say
I
again.
wish he was on. I said, I wish Jazz was on because he's used those words on a couple of occasions as well.
Yeah, it's hard though, isn't it? Because it's always a drunken environment, and well,
Yeah,
the
it's hard to
majority of the times it
manage.
is, yeah. Because you've
Yeah,
also got to have those people skills just in case if something does. Do you ever remember, a wedding when you're looking back and reflect from this point going
mm,
backwards, where you thought, "Oh, this is getting a little bit tasty"? Because I always remember my door gigs when I used to play, where always for the wrong reasons of this fight kicked off then or this
yeah,
happened then. Is there anything that comes to mind?
yeah. I mean, there's once we were in Regency in Birmingham, and I always remember this one because I remember the feeling. So the party's it's at 5:45. Some uncles come up to the stage and "Gaane band karte," and I went, "The party's on till 6:30." I was like, "We're not gonna stop the music." He goes, "No, you can't. Yeah, puri bhi todni hai, blah blah blah." I was like, "Look, all I know is I'm booked till 6:30." And then he tried to smash my mixer, try to bring the volume down, or whatever he was trying to do. So I grabbed his hand, pushed him away, went on by. I go, "Ladies and gentlemen, this uncle over here, he wants to end the party." She'll boo him basically, right? Whatever I said on the mic, yeah. Yeah. So everyone's like started booing. And so I was told him to leave the stage. He was drunk, whatever. And about 10 minutes later, some geezer grabs me. I looked around, this fucking massive geezer built like a shit house. And he's got really aggressive. So I just turned the volume up, gone off stage, and I'm thinking, shit. He goes, "You just did my dad's beastie on the microphone." Yeah. I was like, oh, shit. It was only at that point I was like, hang on a minute. Like, I could generally handle myself in most scenarios, but I thought the one time I thought that time I was going to get caught, I thought that was that was going to be the time. But luckily, we managed to like sort of just discuss. I managed to discuss myself out of the situation basically. But that was the closest I felt like I was in danger. The amount of stuff I've seen or we've seen over the years, like the fights. There was that most famous one was the Wolverhampton one, which H was the DJ, right? The bar wedding. So we've seen it all, I guess, but it happens, man. But it's all just down to ego. And
How did that get resolved? So was it around Christmas time or something happened? Oh, I could be wrong.
it was November time because I remember I was doing a gig at Royal Banqueting that day, and I went to CH and at Ramada. So we always drop into each other's gigs and stuff. And Upbringing were a live band as well. And so I've quickly said on my hellos and stuff, I've left, gone to do this charity event in Wolverhampton. I looked at my phone, I just like haters like messaging saying mad fights has kicked off. So we're like, do we need to get over there? And just the fallout of that was just incredible. It was just, I think it's purely down. I think the real story is someone said something to one of the Gordy on the dance floor, and it just imploded from there, basically, and everyone's just started fighting each other.
Because that was very early on. Like I remember that clearly because it went in the papers and everything.
I think that was the end of that venue, you know that, because like indirectly that
They lost
was
the license.
I don't think they lost the license, but I think the guy that owned it died. Passed away or something, right? And then that happened at the same time this was going on. I think the families were trying to get refunds and this and that, saying security, blah blah. So all of that mingled in together, it almost became what was quite a popular venue to people saying, "Nah, I ain't getting married there." That's where that fight happened. So.
That is it is crazy. The one wedding I remember was at Victoria Palace, and playing Dole. It was one of my first gigs. It was a Suffrey gig. So like we were playing, it was the Suffrey was the band was on, and the Budgeon was DJing and video filming at the same time. So me and Jesh were like just add on to leasing it for that one. And then whenever Suffrey was on, like I think Tubbsy at the time, or I think he was like kind of annoyed at us that we were just playing along with something. I don't know, but Budgeon told us. Anyway, fight kicks off, and there's like a big kerfuffle inside in the hall. It kind of spills outside, and then every time he was kind of singing a song, every other song, they would come back in and start dancing together, and then they'll go back outside to finish the fire. And they were coming in with like shit. Like it was every time he was getting calmed down, it would kick off again. And then I don't even think I can't remember how he got resolved. I remember one of the old uncle going on stage. So he was singing Nakribin Soni Timi, and he took offense that you're insulting the family. So he came up with a kundi and that onto the stage. Right? It was a wild, and that was it was my first ever gig that I did.
Yeah.
It was my first ever gig, and I was like, this is madness, man.
The thing is, like,
you're a kid, I'm like 15, 16, and then you're seeing that, and then you learn. Like I'm already from Handsworth, and you build like a sixth sense in it, so you could kind of smell trouble that there's something brewing. And then when you see some people now where they can't read a room correctly, it's very, very dangerous, man.
It is. But there's nothing more dangerous than doing a wedding in Punjab, man. Because
I was gonna get onto that. What's that like?
It's horrible, man. Like there was a period of time before COVID, about 3-4 years running, every November to February or even March, packed schedule weddings there. If you're in the city, Chandigarh, Delhi, you're all right. People respect DJs. But the thing is, in India, it's a singer and Raj, right? So they worship singers. DJs are just fucking like just local chappals there, really. They're just blasting music. They're like, they've got no respect for you. They don't understand that it's a talent or whatever. We've come from abroad. They start treating you the same as they treat you know how they treat people in India. If you're not on the same level as a class system there, right? And DJs are at the bottom of the class system in Punjab. So people are ready to pull out guns pulled out you, being chased out of venues. Like, it is mad. They've lost the plot because everyone's your friend at the beginning, but as soon as the dadu's kicked in, it's like free for all. So they only made a rule now, like if there's going to be a wedding there, one side has to be from the UK, so at least there's some civilized people there. And ideally it's going to be in the city, no bender parties, no not even Jalandhar or anywhere like that. It's just these people are just too ragged, man. They're just
Yeah, I remember I was speaking to, like Frenzy at one time when he was like, in the contract, he just said no guns, and I was like, what? He goes, yeah, man. He goes, they start just firing in the air, and it's just going too wild. He goes, you just got to
yeah,
get out of there, in and out, man, in and out.
it's mad, man. I was like thinking it's not worth it. I'd rather sit at home for a month than sit in India. Like it's just
Would
too much
you?
for me.
What's your opinion on like kind of the international scenes in terms of like going? Is there a particular favorite place where you feel more at home?
Um, I'd say Holland is like
Yeah, I
in the
see.
last couple of years.
Yeah, you've been killing it out there, man.
They're just like there's a whole. I suppose they're like the first generation getting married now in Holland, so they're they're like us really. They speak English as well, but they're just Dutch Punjabis, and all their interests are exactly the same. They're into football. The lads are. They're all into Bhangra. I'd say they're a lot more in touch with being Punjabi. The girls are a lot more like they're still because they're so first generation. Their Punjabi's super fluid. Um, they're still like got a bit of old school mentality about the way they are and their parents and stuff like that. So, but they're coming through and they're earning good money. They've got good businesses there now, and they've got these beautiful venues. The outside it looks like everywhere looks like Supreme Suite or Prestige Suite life, and outside just look like a industrial unit, right? But inside they've decked them out next level. It's beautiful, but the people are lovely,
I
and
bet you their matai and their cakes are nice.
everything is. Yeah, the food's really good as well. Surprised you're thinking maybe there's going to be,
It's not herbal
like
though, is
back
it?
in the day, huh?
They ain't herbal matai or cakes, is
Nah,
it?
there might be. You never know.
That's why you keep going back. We
Yeah,
might as well start that rumor.
yeah, exactly. There's probably plenty more, but yeah. And I've saying that amount of times I've been to Amsterdam, I'm probably like a stoner's dream, but it's not my thing. So stick to the glassy.
Yeah, if you do get caught, you can blame being the Jassi Sidhu look like, and that's your other little claim to fame, isn't it?
But the first time me and Jesse had a session is I bumped into him at Birmingham Airport. We were on the same flight to Amsterdam. He was in India as a stopover. He had a 6-hour stopover, so he made me have a session with him for about 4 hours. And this guy, I hope you don't want me saying this, but he loves drinking pints. Yeah, I've never seen anyone like after that 4 pints, I'm ready for a glassy. Like he's like not even started at 4 pints. He's happily. And he's not pissed. He's just calm.
He's a chiller. He's a chiller. He's
Yeah.
actually on a road to recover, like not recovery, but he's training. I see him daily.
Is he?
He's
He's getting that quiet.
yeah,
But
yeah.
we speak so much. Like I grew up like obsessed with B21. And because I'm related to like Jet, Budget and everyone, like we're all closely related, that my claim to fame at school was Bay Jackpot's my cousin. I didn't really know him. See him about, but that
I
was the
think
coolest
everyone
thing you
said
could
that
say.
at some stage
Yeah.
because
It was like the
the
coolest
Jag
thing
Pals
to
are everyone's
yeah,
wedding in it.
yeah, exactly. So for me it was like, this is sick. Um I forgot where I was going with my point, man.
Oh, Jussie Pints.
Yeah, just yeah.
This to
So for
this.
me, it was like I was like almost impersonating him. Like he was a bit of a style icon for all our sings because we never had no one. Like literally, it wasn't fashionable to be a singer when I was at school. Um, so he was our first icon in that sense. So it's gone from there where you're just seeing a guy and you'd be listening to him on tapes to you actually chilling with him. I've been at his house. We've had sessions and we've got together. We had a good time. We speak every other day. Wicked geezer, man. I really get on with him. I was
He's
listening.
never
That's what I was
scared of
one.
an opinion as well.
Yeah, that's for sure. Like, I don't think I agree with him on everything, but
He can't. He's a Liverpool fan.
yeah, exactly. But that's why I was listening to the Buddha interview. So I was heartbroken when they broke up. You know that? Like when I was
Oh,
listening
mate.
to that, I
Yeah.
was like, shit. I need
Did you
to
get
know.
did you get the sense of heartbreak from me?
Yeah, it's like you was trying to put it across without sounding heartbroken, but you're heartbroken there.
I remember, man. It was because there was a couple of things that were at Radio XL when I remember before I started working there. I was
Yeah,
doing with Polly in it. I used to
yeah,
do kind of co-host it with him at the time. Obviously not on
yeah.
his level of hosting, but just there.
Just there.
Um, they like Jazzy B when OK album. he just advertised the hell of Movie Box, smashed the advertising on that, and that just went massive. So I remember that was done properly. And then the second thing they did properly was when they announced the B21 split. Because anytime they were playing the song, they were reading the press release out at every news. They were always doing the news every half an hour. So it was constant reminder. And then like I was like saying to my dad, like, because he used to just used to be at the Sportsman quite a lot. And we used to be at that time, and we were like, you know, what do you know? Then I was like, met budging. So like, what's going on? He goes, oh, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. Oh, but no, telling you I don't know, but knows. You get, you know, that look. And then and because there was no avenue in it, you can't speak to somebody else where there's no social media, there's nothing like that to kind of. There's a group therapy session going. What's going on here?
Yeah, trying to get message boards, trying to find out.
Yeah, and then when you look, I think people don't realize how big that they were, man. Like Bali was, especially Bali was like this kind of superstar. Like even when you talk about even like Jassi, like how big these guys were at their peak, like the Diljit level peak, you know, even in this country.
I couldn't believe it. Like we were totally obsessed with B21. It was so big. I felt like in a way, even though like I think we understood that they were big, but in a way the interview didn't quite like uncover like how fucking massive they were. Like we used to go to these mega million. Like, remember Network East used to do these mega million NEC and stuff. Like we used to turn up. You know, how packed these places used to be, and like coaches coming from all over the country just because we knew that B21 were going to be on stage at some point.
I think when I get a chance to see, like I've spoken with Bali privately over the years, like you know, and he kind of gets it, and Jassi kind of gets it, but Jassi, I think in defense of him, he's made his own pathway and does it from there, and he's like he's moved on away from that.
Every time I try and bring it up with him, he's like, he goes, take the posters down, forget about it.
Exactly, that's his line. But I think Buta kind of admitted it in there where he was more in the kind of the background and doing it from there, but there's no, you want to kind of collectively get in and just say like, do you understand? Like, I agree with you that I don't think that they fully know how, like, if one person's saying it to them, okay, fair enough. But if you've got a whole army of people telling the same thing of what the impact was, somewhere down the line it's going to register. But I think they're just in their own personalities. They're like, yeah, all right then. And I think it's just you're just left with you know what it could have been. Like it was just so big.
You can see how we hold on to that memory even now.
Yeah, 100%.
Like how much happiness we like think. I remember hearing Chandigarh come on the radio, and I think, where's this song from? Like, who is this? You had to listen to the end of the song, wait for the radio presenter to announce who it was, blah blah. And it was just like I had to get to a tape shop. I had to get to local Luton tape shop just to get there, just to get the tape.
I remember
Luton was Luton. You didn't know what you was going to get there. So
I remember a wedding I went to, and I won't name the DJ. He's an older DJ. I haven't mentioned his name at all. And at this wedding, it wasn't a big wedding at all. It was at Imperial Palace, and the DJ makes an announcement that he's got the new B21 song, Johnny. Right. So remember on was it on Public Demand? They put a little clip. Was it on? Did they put? I can't remember which album they put a little clip of it.
And I think it might be
made in
England, isn't it?
Yeah, made in England, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So he says he's got it. Not everyone, I'm saying a lot of people got up and went towards to the dance floor. And what he did was he played the sample bit out, saying this is the song. And then where he's supposed to cut it, you heard the audio bit, and everyone turned on him to like to boo him. Back then, he was blagging that he got the leaked version of the song, and it was full of shit. And this guy was big back then.
Serious.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I don't know what's ever happened to him, actually. He was very popular at the time. Yeah, he used to get a lot of them. I'll tell you.
You have to tell me offline.
I'll tell you offline. Yeah, blonde highlights.
Yeah, I think with then it was just them and Panjabi MC. I think for me,
killed it.
Like your original memories, like when I first heard Grassroots and Jindamai, I was just blown away, man, blown away. Like this, I almost missed that Bomb the Tumbi era. the original Safri stuff. Even when I first got into Safri, it was the Paul Bhangra era. So
What was it?
24/7. Well, yeah. Then afterwards, you go back a little bit.
Yeah.
And then the Def Jam, the Shiro, Comedy Firde, and stuff like that. They were all massive in my era. But then Malakid's Forever Gold. Do you know these sort of things like they're so iconic, but I can remember that era so clearly about UK Bhangra, but I can't tell you what happened in the last 20 years or last
Yeah,
15 years. I can't like pick out albums anymore.
Yeah, I like
Other than
Millennium
True School
Mixes.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
Millennium Mixes was huge, man. That's
it's
beautiful album,
it
man.
doesn't get the attention, man. It's one that slips.
What's frustrating is a lot of the old tracks are not available on Spotify or wherever. You have to really, you can't really find anything on Apple Music.
I don't know exactly what's happened with a lot of stuff. I think different record labels have bought and certain catalogs haven't uploaded them, and it's just a mess, man. I tried to do with the Buddha podcast. It was just impossible to find a discography of him or anyway.
You can't even tell what year stuff come out because they just put the date they uploaded it.
I just know like somebody who's like, I'm saying it and if someone's just slagging it off. I just thought to get to a point, I'm just gonna let them just talk about it. I did a Shin podcast, and I just let him just tell the dates. I had rough dates, and I was actually fairly spot on with it. It was only one kind of date that I got wrong, just out by a year. But they took a year to make an album, so you could understand it, But these lot, some of the Bhangra discography and history hasn't been put out. We need people like Dips Bamra to kind of unload his head and just chronologically just load it up.
It has to be done, man. It's so important. I think people think, well, Funny Daddy's talking about it, but I think if we had that, it just legitimized us a lot more about where our history of UK Bhangra, that era, like that 96 onwards, I remember it as clear as day. I remember buying Forever Gold. I remember buying AS Kang's Kang Fu. I remember buying Johnny Youth. All these like albums that come out of grassroots, like I just mentioned before. And then after that, you had the legalized era and stuff like that. It was mad.
What was your opinion? What was your opinion of when like sort of garage came into it?
Hated it back then. I was so against it. You ask anyone. It's only, to be honest, around about, I don't know, when I started DJing, I started appreciating it more because the amount of requests the music was getting. There's still, I don't know, it pisses me off a little bit that when I see clubs, like I don't go to Bhangra nights really, but you see videos on Instagram and people playing the same songs that we were playing at university. You play Aja Mahina, this and that, and I was like, it's like we're stuck in this time warp. It is an important era of Bhangra music, or Punjabi music, should I say, the garage era. At the time, I couldn't stand it, but now I've got a lot of respect for it. A lot of respect for it because the amount of noise and made, and it's evergreen, I guess. I still listen to it. I don't want to listen to it, but I respect it.
I just need to dissect what you just said there for a second. Because
did I lose you?
No, because it's just it didn't lose me. It was just like, your train of thought, because it's very similar. It's actually very similar. Where at the time I was like, I think anything north of Birmingham, I was just getting vexed that if anyone was just leave it, just release it because it was all common. And then I think the only ones who I kind of had an exception for was Tigerstyle. I was like, yeah, these boys are sick.
I used to love Tigerstyle.
And so when they used to come clubbing and uni and that, I used to be like, oh, these boys are sick. And then like they were superstars in my head. The way that
I loved them. I think I had their first album, The Rising.
Yeah.
Bad. I used to be obsessed with Tigerstyle as well. If I see him in the club, occasionally, like later on, you used to get those like Shanti nights. They would be there, so I wouldn't ever go to a Shanti night. But if they were booked for it, I would go there because I didn't really understand that whole jingly music. Like, still don't get it to this day. But if they were there, it meant that you might get like 10-15 minutes of Bhangra.
yeah. And that's the bit where you lose your shit. You pay £15 for 15 minutes.
Exactly. The rest of it, I have no idea. I remember Bobby Fiction, like wicked geezer, by the way. He supports me so much, but he used to be like the forefront of this music. I had no idea what was going on. Like it was too fruity for me.
I just done in Hall, and he was talking about how, I don't know whether he was talking. I was like going through his book. He just released a book which is about the art of conversation. Let's talk. And I was in.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
And as I was like, speaking to him and stuff, he was like kind of reflecting back on his musical career, and it's just like he doesn't know what's happened to Asia, like especially kind of the Indian
Mm.
music scene. It's kind of short circuited itself out where when it got the attention of mainstream, it's just been, oh, look at these guys, look at this really cute what they're doing, and it's like, okay, we're done now, we're carrying on with our music. It hasn't fully kind of transcended over into it. And he was talking about how it could be down to actual the music instruments itself. It doesn't necessarily kind of cross over. Because I was like, actually, it is a point. Like Monday Anta Bachke is like a hip hop fusion track, really. And it's the beat when it kicks in, when everyone knows about it. They'll know the thumb beat as the start with the, whatever. And Despacito, for example, where you listen to, no one knows, we don't know the words, but you know the beat.
Yeah, so the beat, the feeling,
it's, and he was saying like we haven't kind of, and even Prash Desi Beats, he was talking about how he nearly gave up gigging like flies because he did one particular gig and he saw the lineup and he quit because of it, because it was shit, and he just realized.
I feel like that United side that beat Arsenal, wasn't it? You seen that lineup on the meme online?
I think we played with 5 defenders then, didn't we?
Yeah, no, we played 8 defenders.
8 defenders.
Yeah, like John O'Shea and Quinton Fortune in midfield.
Yeah. And just Dwight York up front.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, but yeah, I think the problem is that the wider audience. No, I'd say one of the biggest problems in Punjabi music, we've got no A&R, so there's no direction. People just, oh, I'll follow that trend, or then I'll follow that one, or he did something like that, and let me do something like this. But there's no actual like proper management sitting there thinking how we can manage acts or artists. I think people are just guessing like what to do next. They just, whereas in normal commercial music, there's a plan. There's like people have a sound, they have an idea. Whereas I think everyone is just follows each other or tries to get a certain sound because it sounds like so and so or whatever. And I think that's a big problem with us. The originality starts lacking. So you reckon? And like, if I look at like Guru Dava, for instance, when he first came out, I used to love his music because he was very individual, it was quite Punjabi. And now I feel like if he releases a song now, I don't think it's a big deal if Guru Randhawa releases a song. He might be the most amazing guy. He might be charging a lot for gigs and stuff like that. But I can't really tell you, other than since Sood, what songs he's released. He's probably released 10, 15.
He's released an album, I think.
Yeah, but
another moon. What's this obsession with the moon and space?
Because the Jeets fell in love with his soul and found like whatever, which is fair play. But that's him, innit? But then now suddenly everyone thinks, oh, I need to find the moon as well. So this is what annoys me. And he was a phenomenal artist in his time, but he just...
Who?
I feel like if he had the right A&R, he wouldn't be doing this weird poppy stuff, because he's actually a really solid...
Who's that? Who?
Guru.
Oh, Guru.
I just think an example of someone that I really rated at the beginning and now I don't rate at all.
I think there's a few outliners. There's like Hardy Sandhu. He does of like Pav Daria.
Yeah.
He does some funky. Even Gary Sandhu, he does some funky stuff, man.
Yeah, well, you could say that even Bubble Man does funky stuff now.
Yeah, yeah. He's another.
But they're just doing what
Prophecy's another one.
Yeah, but I don't know what I love Prophecy. I think he's just outstanding with what he does, man. Like, he knows what he's good at and he just smashes the shit out of it. And Pav's, I met Pav about 2 weeks ago. I was at Jay Static's wedding in Canada, and we went out. He's an interesting character, he's a proper live wire. So I can see from his personality where his music comes from. There's a big connection there, but he's a musical head. I think he can sing.
He dropped a podcast with the Frequency Boys. I loved it. I love their stuff, man.
But that's him.
Yeah, and I was like, because I messaged him. I've been if you obviously just drop him a message. I mean, I want to try and get in contact with. But I was like, I wanted to speak to him because he's so unique. You could just see even in what he does,
man. Yeah, he's like I've never met anyone like. When you meet someone, you think maybe like it's going to be like a slow burner. Immediately, you start taking the piss out of me, and first I was pissed off. I want to knock this geezer out. Then I realised he's just a character. Like, that's just his thing, isn't it? I laid him out otherwise. So,
do you think you're growing out? Like we were just talking, you're growing out of the scene where you just this new breed, man. You can't work him out, man. You just can't work him out.
Yeah, but he's like a bit of an old school head as well. It's weird. But I found him really interesting. It's just because you brought his name up. I just thought about him now, but it was funny. We had a good time.
So who else do you kind of listen to in your if you get a chance to kind of chill out and
I
fan out
listen
on?
to, if I showed you like my Spotify playlist, or if you went on it, um, everything there is what I listen to. So there's loads of like new. I'm not stuck on certain artists. I'm not obsessed with certain artists. At the moment, I'm loving Karan releases that come out over the weekend. I think they're sick. Um, and again, he's another guy. I spent 3 months with him in India before he was um, massive. Like we were in the same hotel in Chandigarh. So he was coming through. He just done alcohol too, and Yadi Antifika, which was a track I was obsessed with his. And I was doing a wedding. I was doing Dilpreet Dylan's wedding in at the time, and so we got to know each other then. And you've seen him, the way he's fucking risen. He's unbelievable. I rate him so highly.
He's got so much pressure on him, isn't it, right now to kind of fill in that void in it. There's this, even though
One
I
thing I
don't
will
think he will, I
say,
think he'll just make his own pathway. I just think
yeah,
like I just feel the industry and the whole scene is a bit in a bit of limbo in some ways. It's still in shock.
yeah, definitely. I think, do you know what? There was so much talk about, who's bigger, Karan or Sidhu and stuff, but I think you actually realise that Karan, as much as I love him, was nowhere near, not even in the
Close.
same
It wasn't even
stratosphere. I'd
close
say,
when
I'd say,
it
yeah, because when it come down to it, and you see the fallout, like you say, a lot of people say, "Oh, you only realise Bandha's worth when once he's gone." Sometimes, right?
yeah.
But I love Sidhu. Like I was bumpy his tracks from day one, and but you really realise how big he was after, unfortunately, what happened. It's just, you just think, wow. And I mean, the platform's there for Karan, but that competition, you need that with someone. We need it in DJing with Kudos. We need people to copy our setups, which I get loads of flack about online. But like, we need that so we can say, well, fuck you, we're gonna do something better now, or we're gonna move on, or we've already moved on. Do you know what I mean? But like anything, man, like, Shaw becomes a better left back when he's got competition as well. So,
Fuck yeah. You play, yeah. Let's talk about the real stuff. Like the thing is, like, yeah, we're you both United fans, as you could probably tell everybody. And
massive United fan.
now we got like Shaw, who's if we could get England Shaw in United,
Mm.
we signed 2 or 3 players, decent players. Now I reckon
Yeah.
like the movements happened. I mean, we were gutted about Ronaldo.
A
If
lot
he
of
did,
sauce, man.
okay,
Of sauce, Wally.
he did. If he didn't say anything about Ten Hag,
Yeah.
the rest of it was brilliant.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%. Bang on.
100%. But because he cost him, I was like, oh, you can't do that, man.
Yeah.
You, you-
I think, yeah,
and it was so premeditated. It was just, I think that was it. And to do it with that geezer,
I think, yeah, firstly with peers, Arsenal fans, and loving life, because he's basically
he wants him there, don't he? Really?
fangirling over Ronaldo in the first place. But yeah, I think with Ronaldo, it went from, I only watched the first of the two. I only watched one of the two because I didn't find it that great. I didn't feel like I wanted to watch the second part, but he could have made it. Basically became about him being self-absorbed, where it could have just been about the club's a fucking mess, which is or was or whatever, and he wants it to get better. If he went down that line, he'd go down as the hero that he is. But I think he fucked up with the Rooney thing, and with
Yeah,
the
I
Ten
forgot
Hag
about that
thing, man.
actually. Yeah,
And I only saw those clips. Like I said, I didn't watch the second half, but when you watch him saying, "Oh, the other rats" and stuff like that, and he's classy Rooney, but Rooney's one of the best players of our generation, probably if not the best. And
I didn't like how
that's
he.
such an
I didn't like. You brought it back now. The pain. I just thought like the way he dug him out. That was not needed as well.
yeah, you
That
don't
was
shit on your
bad.
teammates, man. Like even like you could say what there's say that even for us, for example, there's 15 DJs. We'd be lying to say all 15 of us were best friends. There's gonna be people that are closer with each other than the other. But as a team, you go out, you represent each other, and you leave it at that, and you keep it in house.
You got to
So
front it.
yeah, and I think he let himself down, man. It's a shame. Even my number plate says Sue. You know that. That's how much I love Ronaldo.
Legit.
Yeah, I swear to God, that's my number plate.
I
I won't
that's it.
spell it out because then people get my
Yeah, that's it. I just had it with with my son. Like he went football on Saturday, and he's wearing his Ronaldo top, and then he's like
Yeah,
celebrating, and I'm like trying to tell him, do another one, do it, teach him another one,
yeah,
and he can't. He doesn't have. He's got a Maradona top now, Argentina
yeah.
Maradona top. So I hope he doesn't celebrate how Maradona used to. Otherwise, I've got another problem.
Exactly. I was watching his documentary on the plane the other day. It's amazing. But I think the comparisons I'll say is that at the end of the day, all that shit Maradona did in his life, which is like a mad movie, he'll always be remembered for being one of the baddest footballers, like the best footballer of all time. And I think ultimately, Ronaldo. Once we get over the hurt of this situation, that's all he's ever going to be remembered for, even as
Yeah,
United fans.
it's more the legacy stuff.
Yeah,
I think people will realize it, even though I don't think there's no relationship with it.
mm,
They'll say he did that, and then that triggered off the whole sale thing and all this.
yeah,
I think history will rewrite itself to say it did those things. I think with Maradona was one where I read his book many years ago, many years ago, and he was talking about how he was trying to leave a situation. So he goes, when he was leaving Napoli, Napoli used to come up to him and said, "Oh, what car do you want?" And
yeah,
he used to just make up the most stupidest spec of Ferrari, knowing that it didn't exist. And then he goes, a week later, it'd be on my drive. He
yeah.
goes, it was just becoming so impossible. And then
They just
it
wouldn't
was
let him go, innit?
he was already on the coke in Barcelona.
Mm,
And then that kind of followed him over that side. And
yeah,
that basically funded his genius. It was just leading one to the other, basically. And then
yeah. He's
ultimately,
like a Punjabi singer, really. A lot of them got the same situation. Like
I think,
they're
you
like
know,
there's gangsters involved, there's drugs involved, there's alcohol, they're foying out, there's fucking
the
it's mad.
guns now.
Yeah, it's just he's the
Do you
original
think
desi
it's just
banda.
not? It's not. I kind of say it all the time not to meet your heroes, especially in this
Oh,
area,
100%,
because
yeah.
they're fucking horrible, most of them.
Oh, some of the most disgusting banda I've met in my life are banda singers. I would say like it's just you sit there and you just want to get out of the room. Like it's it's amazing the facade of social media can make you think about certain people in a certain way, but it's dirty, man. It's like I thought if there was like a Me Too campaign with in our industry, I think people be in turmoil, would be a different level.
You've just
I'm telling
start, just started it.
you,
You know,
it's gone,
I
man.
just I can't. For me, so like in this bit we've talked about it, like what I was saying, playing the doll and stuff, and then kind of got back into it a little bit,
Mm,
and then I kind of left because I just couldn't handle the politics. I couldn't handle it. Hadn't moved on. It was so toxic, and then you got the new wave of social media added on top
mm,
of it. And I was like, I can't, and you're a parent as well at the same time,
yeah,
and then you think I can't be dealing with this, man. So
yeah. I think you were in that. You was definitely like recently when you were quite heavily involved with weddings. I think you probably saw the proper brunt end of the
oh, so
cutthroatness and the bitchiness that can occur. I mean, fortunately, I try and manage to swerve a lot out of it, but it's there, man, and it's live and kicking, and there's a lot of hate and jealousy.
I think if you're in an arena and you're in any industry and there's
Mm,
people who are operating at elite levels and there's a bunch of people like that operate,
mm,
you'll survive. It's just that other people of a um, kind of the atmosphere, the industry, and that can drag you down and start the things. And if you and as you get better at things, your circles gets a lot more smaller and out of control. Really, not out of control in terms of like they get smaller because of who you hang around with or what you're doing, but it
mm.
gets out of control that you can't control what people are saying or doing or all these kind of
Yeah,
things. And then you just get into this bit. And I was like, I wanted to kind of ask you this bit, which
mm,
is you're spending a lot of time on other people's happy events and stuff at a cost of your own potential family in terms of seeing your
yeah,
kids
yeah.
growing up and that. And for me, the payoff wasn't there. That's my own personal bit in terms
Mm.
of doing it. Did you like? is there a stage where you're thinking, I'm missing out, and I'm not going to get this time back with the, with the family and all these things? Like, how
Yeah,
do I kind of balance that out?
I think the biggest sacrifices are all made, and in life you up and down in marriage or whatever. And I think the fact that our wives put up with this is probably the biggest surprise, because we aren't there at the weekend for the majority of the year. Say safely, like even now it's starting in February next year, but generally March to the end of October, you're not going to be home at the weekend. So you miss out on a lot. I've made massive changes from back in, well, I say back in the day up until about just before COVID. I used to go and set up all my stuff. I used to go and set up, pack down, and do the gig, and do all the driving, and sort out my staff during the week. Then do all the repairs to the equipment, and then do the client meeting, sitting down, designing the event. You're doing all of this stuff. It's just, and at a point, I was also working during the week as well. So there was like, you're never then about, and when you are about, you're so tired. You're not engaged with family life. So you do need that wake up call, and certain things happen in your life where you realize, hang on a minute, you can't just keep going around just thinking weddings are the be all and end all of everything. You've got to bring back a balance to life. So stop working Monday to Friday, didn't really need to, and then so that brings a little bit more balance at home during the week. But the main thing now is the weekends. I turn up to my gig, I DJ, then I leave, and that's it. And the rest of the only other work that I'm doing is just communicating with my clients. And I think if you can get to that stage, then you can find the balance. But it's still really hard, man. It's really hard. There's going to obviously be a time, but I won't ever miss like my son's football
Yeah.
match on a Sunday morning. I know he's going to be playing at 9 a.m. It's fine. Like, no matter what time I finish Saturday, I'm up to go and watch him football or take him training or whatever. But you have to put that effort in, man. You have to slog it. Otherwise, I've seen a lot of people, just families, marriages break apart because of this industry. And I don't want to be one of those. And that's just a statistic. So you
So
got to
what
put
does it?
effort in.
What kind of, like, because you release quite a lot of kind of your own music and that as well. Like, is that another side of your work that you want to kind of concentrate on? And is that the exit strategy out of it one day, or is it still kind of still
I
doing
don't think.
your mixes and still carrying on
Yeah,
your bits?
I think that's just like another passion. It's just like I enjoy it. If I find you on WhatsApp, you get lyricists or singers send you sound bites and snippets all the time. You hear it. If I like something, then I'm gonna run with it. Only because it's because I love Bangla so much. I'm like, and I feel like I've got the even though like my resources are limited, you're not going to get the bad boy lyrics and the bad boy singers all the time or at all. But if you can try and put something together, I think I've got the ear for the lyrics or trying to find a good voice and knowing what good music is, because that's what we do. But it's just a hobby. It's never going to be something I'd want to do for the rest of my life or anything like that. It's just, I think once you're out of the industry, I'll be out of the industry doing, other things that you do on the side, be it property or whatever. So,
Yeah. No, what was it? FX
was
be
that?
a trader. What was it called? Trader.
When we were doing
Forex. That's it.
everyone became a trader in
Yeah. In the
at the
lockdown.
pandemic. Yeah.
So just on kind of like, we kind of covered like current music and all these bits. Is there any sort of fears or concerns that you think that you can see, especially in like a wedding industry, that no one's really paying attention to?
Um, a lot of stuff nowadays people talk about is the cost of weddings, how big they are, how extravagant they are. There's a massive talk after COVID that weddings will never be big again. People have realized, but where we are now, like we've done just this weekend, there was a phenomenally massive wedding that we done. People are always going to have. I think it's just within the Punjabi community that there's going to be extravagance in that sense. We love a party, and if we could afford it, we're going to do it. I feel sorry for the people that are trying to keep up with that without necessarily having the means to do it. And I always try and say to my clients, it's not about the hard sell or anything like that. If you've got the money, yeah, we can make amazing things happen. But ultimately, if you've got a decent DJ, you've got decent food, you're onto a winner. You know, 9 times out of 10, your crowd's going to make your party, not the lights and whatever. That's just the additional bonuses. But I do fear for people thinking, shit, this is the standard, and even the standard, I would never get married now. The amount of
Oh,
people, money, like if you think about how much people are spending, I would think, you know, even though it's against what we do, I'd be thinking now, forget having a reception. Like
yeah,
it's
you put it.
unreasonable.
That's the
But
deposit on the house, isn't it?
but people want to come to us wanting to spend, wanting that extravagance. They want something different or something new or whatever, and we can only give what people want. Really, people are coming with those wants to us. So when I see online that if some there's a video today on just basically where there's like a waterfall coming down a couple and they're
Yeah, yeah,
dancing in
yeah.
the middle.
With the fucking hearts.
Yeah, which is I've never seen myself, but you can't hate them for it because that's their magical moment. They've obviously gone into that situation
Planned
knowing
it.
that's going to happen. Yeah, so fucking people are upset that it's happened. I'm like, well,
I didn't see the
if
comments.
we did,
What were they
yeah,
saying in the comments? Like, oh,
you'd
ridiculous.
say, oh, they say the expectations of nowadays for
Water
weddings and
bill.
Joe, blah, yeah, this, that. There's all sorts going on. But I think if we didn't have a mentality about moving forward, we'd still be getting married in community centers. And now we do some of the best weddings in the world on beaches and extravagant locations abroad. And like, it's an amazing thing to be part of, bearing in mind that even my pre-wedding was in a community center and that was in 2010. So that's not so long ago, but like that was my pre-wedding, obviously. But nowadays, you wouldn't. I don't think that hall would anyone even look at it now for a pre-wedding. Like people are doing pre-wedding in the hotels now.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
mad.
I'm the same bit, man. It's where you see people. It's it's like where you see the dance floors was the one in it. Gloss, this
Gloss
mirrored,
dance, yeah,
bloody gold plated stuff and that, and then you just see a kid just sliding the on their knees and it by the cake and that, just scratching it all up. You think, oh, lelo, 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 lelo.
yeah. That's it. It's great for the initial photo after that, but like I said, it's design and like people see it once and they want it. You have to give it to them, I guess, and but yeah, it's just I don't think the wedding industry is ever gonna shrink. It's such a big industry, and the
Do you reckon it
technology,
will
and
ever professionalize?
I think I don't like blowing our trumpet too much, but I think like we've done probably the most to keep it professional. Be it the paperwork you have to submit to like the Natural History Museum, for instance, or the things that you have to do to be. It's so hard even now not to be looked. We don't want to be looked at as the Indian supplier at saying that the Natural History Museum. Me and Jazz having a chat about this. Like, why are we not just a supplier? Like, why are we the Indian supplier? Like,
But
you
you
get rid
always
of that
find that,
tag.
don't you? When if you went to a hotel or something,
Yeah,
oh, for Indian weddings, there's a different manager.
yeah.
And then it's a different fucking
Different
price list. Normally
suppliers.
like
Yeah,
double the price list. And you're like,
yeah.
how's that? How do you get away with that's like isn't that
It's
like discrimination?
it's mad how it all works, and it's just but it's our fault as well. People cut corners and they they do stupid stuff. Like it's just until everyone catches on that you have to work in a certain system. You need to have a system. You need to have like departments if you're going to do this properly. And we've got if you come over, hopefully I can bring you down to the office. You'll see that there's different areas of the company and that everyone's got a specific function. When we turn up to an event, everything's color coded, so we know what part of the room certain stuff needs to be in, and everything's there's a massive system that H and Jazz and gone out there and understood to put together. But no one else is going to do it because they don't charge enough money. Simple fact. Like we think we charge, arguably charge the most in the wedding industry, for instance. But when it comes to a water company offering the same sort of stuff that we do, we're probably half the price. Still, they're looking at us saying we're the cheap bastards. We're looking at everyone else saying you lot are fucking the cheap bastards. We actually should be charging at least double, but we don't because the market doesn't allow us to, and that's because no one wants to charge good money for some reason. It's
Okay.
mad.
We're coming towards the end now, so as you probably be aware, this is the bandwagon, and I give the opportunity to the guests to either jump on a bandwagon, jump off on a bandwagon, or is there anything else that they want to get off their chest? This is their space to do so.
Oh, is it? Oh man, this shit could get me in trouble. You know that.
Nah.
Nah. I think TikTok dancers.
Yes.
That
Let's
and
go for it. Let's go for it. Go for it.
I don't know. I don't want to offend no one because I know a few dancers and stuff, and it's not them per se. It's just everybody else that maybe they can't dance or whatever. It's not a profession, but don't ever just think for a second, like when they're dancing in front of the camera and they've done their 58th take, that what the fuck am I doing? And what am I gaining out of this? Like I'm not sure. Like you're not going to get a gig out of it, so you're
Oh,
going to get someone
you mean a
like
DJ doing it?
no, not even a DJ. I'm saying like as in like it could be a dance. You could be a dancer trying to get a gig,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
anything,
yeah.
whatever you're trying to do is. I just don't get. If this is your hobby, then fucking, I just don't get it, man. Like I'd rather go out and play a good game of five-a-side or something. But to sit there try and do all these takes, that and the other hate is, these Insta couples, man. Fucking, that they're the two things I can't handle. The rest of the
What
stuff, I'll be all right with.
what about when couples have the same email address and their names in the email address?
The wedding ones, you get a lot of that. But I think it's worse when the couple's got a shared Instagram page. I don't know, man. Maybe we're just fucking uncles. I don't know. But,
We are turning that way. I find it weird when I see one person filming another person and they're doing like a real Instagram and doing all, and I can't handle it. I'm not even comfortable with someone taking a selfie on their own when it's just them.
yeah.
I find that weird. I've done
Find it
it, but
weird,
I
yeah.
don't. I don't. I
No, I
don't.
do
But
it like
then I
you
see
do
people
it
just
occasionally, but yeah, some people making like a living out of it, or spend
daily.
the whole night in an area just having their photo taken. I've seen people come to weddings just to get the photos taken. That's it. But like I said, we're being fuddy duddies. Probably that's what it is.
Yeah, the
But
next.
I'm not totally in tune with this TikTok era. Like I like when people send me stuff where you can learn stuff. Again, I think it's just an age thing. Then I think it's sick. Like if I can find out how to change the tap at home just by watching a TikTok video, yeah, sick.
Now, as
You won't.
YouTube, I watch a lot of TikToks. I like that, and the time goes quick. Yeah, that's it. And I always kind of save videos and send it in the groups.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's funny. But I kind of whenever if I'm putting a clip of this, I post and ghost.
yeah,
Like I don't even know how to read the comments on there. I don't understand the
yeah,
notification system on there because every time I go on this, like it just blows up. I'm fairly competent on social.
yeah.
I don't get it. Right. I don't know how these people do all these little duets. I don't know how they cut things yet. I don't bother with that. I haven't even got a department. It's just me doing it all. I watch it all, but I just think the effort that's the other one, how they learn dialogues and I'm like, you're about 40 years
Yeah,
old,
and you're trying
50
to
years
lip
old, and
sync.
you've learned a script and then you're acting it out. Like, I don't
I
dang,
know, man.
is
Like I
that
don't like to
normal?
like upset anyone's hustle. If that's what they're enjoying, fair play. You got to embrace the fact that if they get happy out. But part of me feels like a lot of people are just doing it to try and get a like, and I don't know, man. Like I'm happy with Twitter and Instagram, and I find Instagram a bit of a headache sometimes. But Twitter for me, if that was the only thing left in the world, I'm happy with Twitter because
Yeah, you're
constantly
strong on there.
learning.
You're strong on Twitter. You're funny on there.
Yeah.
You're.
And it's just, but it's fine. But all the funniest people in the world are on Twitter. Half my humor, I was cracking up. I was watching, reading stuff on Twitter. So,
Paul, really appreciate you taking the time out, man. And
nah, thank you, man. I hope it was like, I don't know how interesting it can get, but
it
it's good
doesn't.
to
It's
have a
not
chat with
about.
you.
It's you know, it's about having a chat. I think that's the
Yeah, yeah,
most important thing because then people can get kind of a vibe. And if people, again, it's just different. You'll be surprised how people kind of where these kind of conversations go, where what people listen
yeah.
to, man. You know, honestly, I've had some mad people read like some feedback at where it comes from. It's
Too.
crazy.
It's sick. I love it. I love the fact that you're doing it. We did a little bit like in the pandemic. Just tried to
Yeah,
do a
yeah.
couple of like
I forgot. Yeah,
spaces
talk
stuff.
about that. You like because you, Jazz and everyone, you brought back the night shift, didn't you?
Yes, we did night shift, which was for us was brilliant because by law we were allowed to be in a TV studio, so we got to see each other once a week, get together, and we did it. I felt like we did it really well, like in terms of like none of us have experienced being in front of camera or anything. We had no idea, but we had the technology and we had the space. Then it was just down to us to bring a bit of personality into it. And Mandy from BBC, Mandy Man, Bachali, she used to like plan our show for us, and it was good. It was a really good time. And then on the side of that, I was doing this. Was there spaces before?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
I remember jumping in one. I remember jumping in
was a True School one?
one or two. Yeah, yeah. I think I was there for about 5 minutes. I think I just jumped back out.
That was
But
nuts.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
I was there
didn't expect that.
for the bit, but I was
I
like,
couldn't even do another one after that because I felt like we peaked. It's like there's nothing I could do that was ever gonna um, bring back that sort of the amount of like because you couldn't record it. People, there was so much talk about it. It was mad.
yeah. I think. Do you know what it was though? I think there's a couple of things that I've kind of learned, and I think I don't know whether you might agree with me on this.
Mm.
I think it's okay to change your mind on opinions. I really do.
Mm.
And I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
like, if you turned around and said to somebody, oh yeah, I believe this, or I like this particular art, or do this, or like that music, and then you change your mind, that's fine.
yeah.
But I think now, because on social media, you've had a picture taken, or you've liked this, or you said this one time,
Mm.
that's it now. That has to be your way and your method for uh,
Yeah,
20, 30 years. And I can't talk to you again because you've done this, or you've said
yeah,
like that, or you've liked this football team, you've liked this player. I think we have to kind of get comfortable with saying, you've got a different opinion to me.
yeah.
I
But
ain't
it
got
doesn't
a
mean you
problem
can't.
with that.
Yeah,
That's fine. That's what makes the world go round. And
it's
I
a
think
dog.
like
You can have.
even with your spaces kind of thing,
Yeah,
like you might have had another 3 or 4 different moments and a
yeah.
conversation that might have tweaked somebody else's thinking. You know what I mean? Because
Mm.
if you start giving a shit of what your audience is thinking, I think you're lost then. I think you've become the
Yeah,
algorithm.
yeah.
If you're doing it just for you, I think you're okay.
And people dig it. And if
Yeah,
you just
yeah.
carry on doing it yourself, I think one of the most important things I've ever done in my life was just to carry on with being comfortable in how I feel about my own views, my own things. I don't feel like I've got so many like different friends with different opinions, different political opinions, but we know like at the same time we've all got each other's back. We're good friends, or you don't have to agree on everything
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
to
But again, it might be something, because you got good views and you got strong opinions and stuff. It's like there's no harm in like bringing. What's the most
no point in
what
no harm in expressing it.
you need, just as much as you said you need other DJs for competition to raise it. You need different formats and genres. I've had different podcasters come on my podcast
Mm,
because it's just like I'm interested in them. I'm interested in their stuff,
yeah,
and you know what I
yeah,
mean.
exactly.
And it is a podcast culture where you do go on other people's podcasts. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because if they're doing well, that's good for you, and you
yeah.
build up that relationship where you get on with everyone. Like, but this whole section of podcasting, there's no money in it. There's there's no-
Nice, but
there's nothing from that one. So you've got
you
to be
wouldn't.
doing it out of
But you're not
passion.
thinking when you stay exactly. You're not starting it by thinking, "Oh, I can make money out of this." This is just like we said, a passion. And at the beginning, that's what DJing was, bro. It was just a passion, uh, and happens to be a business which is giving me everything I've got in life. I've got a lovely family, lovely home. I'm very happy and comfortable in, and DJ's given Kudos gave me everything. So for me, I'm very big on loyalty, um, and I'm very thankful as well about what I've managed to achieve in this small little industry. You know,
Thank you very much.
uh,
I think you said I think we got a good wide selection of things covered
yeah,
in there.
yeah,
And
sounds
then
good.
when you're down, we'll have to do it in person then.
Yeah, I'm coming down Saturday to end the Christmas markets in Birmingham with my cousins.
I'm actually away with money then as well.
Oh
So,
yeah. Oh, fair enough.
yeah. It depends when I put this out. Then when I can actually, it'll be a couple of weeks. Yeah, so I'm going away.
Oh, is it?
All right then, I'll catch you. I'll
Fair
tell you
enough.
offline now. All right,
Yeah,
see you
all
in a
right, man. Safe. All right, catch you. All
bit.
right, bye.